Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and the NFL officially opened up their 2021 league year on 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon. And compared to Monday and Tuesday, the Dolphins were a little more active. And we're going to talk about the economic moves that the team made, as well as the current hold on wide receiver signings across the board. Hey, at least at the time of this recording, no huge names have been gone. Obviously, Kenny Golladay is talking to the Giants, so that seems to be done. But we're going to jump into all of that. The Fins actually did make a couple of intriguing moves of their own. So let's talk about it. Let's dive in.
So, a lot on the line for Murray, who's got time, and then pressure up the middle out of nowhere, and that is incomplete, obviously, going for Isabella. Adam Butler getting the start today for the injured Brian Coward. Came with the late pressure.
Yeah, you're trying to run a little bit of a stunt on the inside. You're going to see a little bit of a twist right here, and that confuses the lineman, and all of a sudden, Adam Butler's allowed to break free and get some pressure on that quarterback.
3rd and 7, can get a first down at the 5-yard line. Rodgers with time, and it is picked off. Justin Coleman right out of the hands, and now on the go. Look at this play by Coleman.
Aaron Rodgers sees it. Number 10, Darius Shepard out there. The ball hits him off the face mask, but what a job concentrating by number 27, Justin Coleman. He's been one of the better slot corners in the league.
So what are the Dolphins doing exactly? Obviously, we know they were going to be more frugal than past off seasons, but what's the deal, Chris? We all saw what we saw last year, and if we truly want to evaluate Tua and give him the best chance to succeed, he needs playmakers. Don't get me wrong, after seeing the contract of Malcolm Brown, I'm a little more pleased. Very economic signing, especially for how seasoned of a vet he is and what he provides as a power runner. But Robert Foster and a Rams cast-off running back, no way is this endgame, right? Guys, this is not the end of the Dolphins' plans. It was day one of free agency, and many top prospects are still on the board. People be freaking out on Twitter and Instagram. And listen, I get it. Social media GMs, we all pretend to be them. But just patience, guys. These guys have turned around the ship so far, and if there's a reason they're waiting, it's probably a good reason. And yeah, we saw some names go off the board, some that could have been viable options for the Dolphins. Curtis Samuel, I know a lot of Dolphins fans wanted Curtis Samuel. He signed with Fitzy in the Washington football team. Rashard Higgins, a potential cheaper guy, he re-signed with the Browns. And Kenny Golladay, as we talked about, appears to be heading to the Giants. Hey, let them overpay for him. There's still going to be some big names left for Miami to add, if that's even their strategy. They might be planning to exclusively add through the draft. We don't know. Maybe they want to see, what receivers, what veteran guys get cut, closer up to the draft to add, and they don't want to overpay. But there are still guys. Listen, the Dolphins, a team closer to the cap than a lot of these other teams competing for these wide-out services, are set. Why would they set the market for these guys? Instead, let another team pay the highest dollar for that top guy. Listen, the top guy won't be a Dolphin. They don't have the money for that, but that's okay. Once this is set and once the market is set, then the Fins can swoop in and get a deal far more to their liking. And listen, a couple guys that I really like and I think Dolphins fans would be happy with, and if the Dolphins do make a splash, I could see JuJu Smith-Schuster as a really tempting guy for Miami. As a player, JuJu is able to play all over the field. The Dolphins could use him in the slot. He can run those short crossers that Tua loved at Alabama, and the Dolphins definitely need to implement more into their offense. They can put JuJu outside. He can run a go route, a post. He has the speed for that. And screw it, you can just give it to him on an end around. So JuJu is that type of weapon, and he already has a relationship off the field with Tua. So that chemistry is there to develop off of. Some people are not huge fans of his personality. I think this offense needs more of that personality, though. A swagger, some identity, and I think JuJu could be that spark. Another potential option still out there is Isaiah McKenzie, I think at a far more reasonable price. McKenzie often torched the Dolphins when he played for the Bills, and I think he would likely compete with Jakeem Grant for that 4th or 5th receiving option if the Dolphins bring in McKenzie. Another guy still out there, another big name, Will Fuller, but for the price tag that's likely going to accompany him, pass. He's just injured far too much and does not provide enough versatility as a receiving threat, in my opinion, for the price tag that he's likely going to get. So there's still time to get to a weapons. let's take a little more time before we judge the Dolphins front office and their actions. Literally, the NFL season started Wednesday at 4 p.m. It has not even been 24 hours since you're likely listening to this podcast. And a picture is going to start to develop. We're going to start to see what it is that the Dolphins are planning to do. And as we get closer to training camp and closer to the season, after we see all these additions that the Dolphins make, if that picture still looks fuzzy or frankly a little worrisome, then we can start really talking about, hey, what the hell's going on? In terms of adding talent, the Dolphins were a little more active on Wednesday. They signed a couple of young defensive players as well as a weapon familiar with their starting quarterback. It's difficult to stand pat as fans and watch teams around the league, more specifically your rivals, getting better with some marquee signings. And I mean, it's rough knowing your team is bargain shopping while the Jets and Pats are throwing money around at a bunch of big names. But let's think about this for a second. The New York Jets currently hold the second overall pick. They finished last season going 2-14. A few big names are not going to change their fortunes. We know that. They have a long, long road to come back from. They have a lot of holes on that roster. So just throwing a bunch of names at it, I mean, remember a few years ago when they brought in C.J. Mosley, Le'Veon Bell? That didn't work. So don't be too concerned with the Jets. They need to earn something first. And as Dolphins fans, we know this, when your team does not have that foundation, and you just build that foundation with these expensive free agents, then you're setting yourself up for failure. The reason is you're assuming that the guys you're bringing in are exactly the same, if not better, as they were on their previous team, what you signed them off of. And that doesn't always happen. What happens, right, for the Patriots, that big spending spree they did, what happens if JuJu Smith has injury issues? Jalen Mills struggles at the corner position, and frankly, we've seen that before. And how does that ripple through the rest of the team when you have so much riding on these players that you invested a lot of money in, and things are just falling a little short than what you expected? And, those guys alone occupy such a large portion of your cap that it really is going to ripple effect throughout your team. The Jets have been a little more calculated with their signings than the Patriots, and for that, frankly, I'm a little worried, but they do have huge holes to fill, as we talked about, and we don't even know yet if Robert Saleh is the man for the job. But the Dolphins are inactive because unlike the Patriots and Jets, they like their roster. They like a lot of the young talent, and it makes sense. They went 10-6. They have good young talent across the board, and rather than signing other players, they're frankly probably trying to save some money to extend guys they know for a fact are fits in their system and parts of their future plans. I don't know about you, but I would like to keep guys like Jerome Baker, Mike Gesicki, and any other young players who develop and become worthy of contract extensions. Let the other team set the market and find value after the fact. So with that in mind, what moves did the Dolphins end up making? Well, they kicked it off on Wednesday prior to the opening of the league year with the signing of former Lions cornerback Justin Coleman. Coleman entered the league as an undrafted free agent in 2015, spent a little time with Seattle initially, but wound up starting the season in his rookie year for, guess who? Brian Flores and the Patriots. From there, he went back to Seattle, where he played 2 seasons and performed very well. He showed extreme quickness in the slot and can definitely compete with Nick Needham for the starting nickel position. And I think this move absolutely upgrades their secondary. And for the cheap contract he got, just $2.75 million, he can really make an impact and provide valuable depth if he steps in and is a competent nickel corner. You can never have enough corners. And listen, Brian Flores has an eye for that position. So if he worked with him and feels like he has all the potential to keep developing in Miami system, he's still young, a couple years under 30, I believe 27 or 28 years old at the start of the season. So, good, valuable depth. Obviously, we do hope that Noah Igbenogany, the 30th overall pick last year, is able to develop and contribute. But if he does, I think it's going to be on the outside, as an outside corner. And it was evident through press conferences and just body language of the coaching staff and the way they responded when people asked about Noah's development last year, that the defensive coaching staff has a plan, which makes sense. There's no rush to put Noah in. They obviously had to throw him in when Byron Jones went out, and that was not good for anyone involved, except for Stephon Diggs and the Bills. But the guys ahead of Noah are more than capable of holding their own. And he's so raw and young that it was worth giving him more training and not just throwing him in the nickel position just because you feel like he's talented. If you think his ceiling is highest outside, then play him there because the value is so much higher for that position. And listen, he's also so young. He'll be entering this season playing at 21 years old. So again, corner is a hard position, and there's a reason Flores chose him. So far, he has a great eye for talent at that specific position. So let's see. I mean, obviously a few busts have been made, but if you take a look at the guys the Dolphins have brought in and sort of developed in the secondary, it's pretty impressive. And you go back and look at New England in his tenure. Obviously, Flores was not making all of those decisions, but clearly he had a hand in that development. So definitely trust him when he brings in corners like this. And a move I was super excited about was the addition of Adam Butler from New England as well. Look at that. We swapped defensive tackles. Frankly, though, ours is better. Devon Godchow is a stout, consistent run plugger, don't get me wrong, really good, who can provide occasional penetration. But since he entered the league in 2017, the same year as Butler, he showed to be limited in pass rush. Not Butler. Godchow has 3 sacks and 16 quarterback hits. Obviously, he missed a lot of this past season, but Butler, with his explosive first step and overall athleticism, honestly, if you haven't watched him play, watch some highlights, watch the way he rushes from the interior of the line. He's proven to be way deadlier in the passing game. And to Godchow's 3 sacks, Butler has 15 in that same time, and he has 22 quarterback hits to Godchow's 16. So yes, Godchow was hurt, as we said, but unless you think Godchow was about to get 12 sacks last season, I think Miami just added a potential weapon for a 5-man front. I mean, just imagine Emmanuel Ogbah, Zach Sealer, Raekwon Davis, Adam Butler, Christian Wilkins, Van Ginkel. Ooh, I really like the foundation that the Dolphins have built for this front 7. And frankly, I would say Zach Sealer is a good comp for the type of player that Adam Butler is. Athletic, but still big and strong, and can definitely get around a big fat guard. So definitely a good deal, especially when you consider that the Patriots signed Devon Godchow for 2 years, up to $16 million, while Miami got Adam Butler for 2 seasons, same amount of time, at just $9 million. So I'm a fan. I believe it's actually up to $9.5 million. So for $6.5 million more dollars, I don't think Devon Godchow is worth it. And lastly, the Dolphins did bring in a receiving threat for Tua. They signed former undrafted free agent in 2018, Robert Foster. Foster is a small, shifty receiver who may have a tough time making the roster, but hey, it's definitely good competitive depth, and we need as much of that as we can get at the wide receiver position. He previously played for Buffalo and then shifted around to Green Bay and then Washington, where he made his biggest impact, primarily with the Bills, and he showed some promise in the slot. He's definitely not the answer, but again, solid competition. And most importantly, he's an Alabama guy. I don't really believe there was much overlap between him and Tua. I don't really think Tua was really practicing with him. But hey, that familiarity might come into play. Some general NFL news before we wrap up the show today. The Patriots and the Fins have this really incesty thing going on. And we touched on it, but let's really kind of dive in for a second. They're swapping players back and forth, and it's making me a little uncomfortable. As we touched on, the Pats got Godchow and we took Butler. The Patriots also signed Ted Karras back, and all signs also point that the Dolphins will then, to replace Ted Karras on our end, take David Andrews, who has spent his career with, you guessed it, the Patriots. And now we're going to have to deal with a pissed-off Kyle Van Noy, who re-signed with the Patriots after the Dolphins rented him for 1 season, an expensive season, and frankly, he did help establish that culture as we talked about a few episodes ago. But if you want to hear our more in-depth thoughts on why the Dolphins moved on from Kyle Van Noy, or at least our thoughts, go back a few episodes and we dive into that. But hey, Grandpa, talking to you, Kyle Van Noy, is going to have to hit the gym if he's about to try and run with some of the guys that Miami's about to bring in to aid the offense soon. Let's get it, Greer and Flores. Give me JuJu. Give me something, please. Keep building on this team that you have built so far and get us a real winner. Fins up.
JuJu Smith-Schuster, who a couple years ago we thought, hey, he might be the next great receiver of the NFL. He might be the number 1 guy on the free agency. He's young, plenty of experience, but the last 2 years have not been his best. Now, part of that is, the quarterback play has not been as good. The supporting cast at receiver with no Antonio Brown has not been as good. So I wonder in the end if JuJu is better served being more of a 1B to somebody than a true number 1 receiver.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the PhinsPod. That's going to do it for us here. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed this extra little episode, free agency style. We're going to be right back tomorrow, so make sure to come back and join the pod once again. Please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show. It really does help us out and helps other Dolphins fans find us. Subscribe just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins. And remember that the PhinsPod is available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and of course on YouTube. Continue the conversation with us over on Twitter and Instagram at PhinsPod, and check out the site for news and content, phinspod.com. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Let's sign some awesome free agents, and until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.